Hello, welcome for this session. Here we are going to look at uh, the same chapter 3, cell structure and function, but now we are on lesson number 2, and that is cell organelles. So we will be looking at cell organelles. So when we are looking at cell organelles, we can think of cell organelles like uh, our bodies, for example. Let's take our body in general. We will be looking at our body in general. It is made of different organs, and each of these organs in our bodies carry out specific functions. The heart pumps blood around the body, the skin receives sensory information and prevents infection, the intestines digest food, your kidney filters wastes, and your bone protects and supports other organs. So on a much smaller scale, your cells have similar division of labor. So they contain specialized structures that work together to stimulate and efficiently carry out other necessary processes. So cells have an internal structure. Cells have an internal structure. Cells have an internal structure. They are surrounded by a protective membrane. Cells have an internal structure. Structure. They are surrounded by a protective membrane. They are surrounded by a protective membrane. They are surrounded by a protective membrane. By a protective membrane that receives messages from other cells. That receives messages from other cells. That receives messages from other cells. They contain membrane-bound organelles that perform specific cellular function. They contain they contain membrane organelles Of course, here we are talking about eukaryotic cells. We are talking about eukaryotic cells. They contain uh, cellular organelles that carry out specific functions that divide the cell into compartments and help regulate timing of key events. But the cell is not a random jumble of suspended organelles. The cell is not a random jumble of suspended organelles. Organelles, but rather we should see a cell uh, as having some organization. Rather, certain organelles and molecules are anchored to specific sites which vary by cell type. So if the membrane was removed from the cell, the contents wouldn't collapse and ooze out. The contents wouldn't collapse and ooze out in a big puddle. So how does a cell membrane maintain this framework? So each eukaryotic cell has what we call cytoskeleton. Each eukaryotic cell has what we call cytoskeleton. Cytoskeleton. So the cell, let's look at the so so cells have the DNA cytoplasm. That is where all organelles float. Inside we have inside the nucleus we have the DNA. We'll just take a general first view. Prokaryotic cells, we looked at that already. So we want to look at more advanced cells like the eukaryotic cell. Then we look organelles. So here, when we are looking at organelles, you see that we have many of this stuff flowing inside the cell. But as I have said, it's not a, a jumble or something which is not organized. Everything in a cell is in fact organized. Everything in a cell is organized. In the nucleus, we have chromatin, which fold when the cell wants to divide to form chromosomes. And these chromosomes, of course, carry what the genes that are used to make different proteins. Then we have ribosomes. Ribosomes are also made in the nucleolus, that is inside the nucleus. Then here we are having what we call the Golgi apparatus. Not a Golgi apparatus, but endoplasmic reticulum, sorry. So this is the endoplasmic reticulum. This is the cytoplasm. We might be having some other stuff flowing here. Uh, Here we have materials moving within the cytoplasm. We know that proteins are made within the cytoplasm. So these are proteins. Then we have vesicles which come off or peel off from the Golgi apparatus. So you can see them peeling off and sending informations. So they are sending stuff from the endoplasmic reticulum and to the Golgi apparatus. So these proteins will be structured according to the needs, and they will be transported to where they are needed. Lipids can be attached on them, and even carbohydrates. Then we have plant cells. They have vacuoles, uh, which animal cells don't have. Now here is the difference. They have central vacuole. Animal cells have small, tiny vacuoles. Lysosome. We have other organelles called lysosome. Uh, we have cytoskeleton, and that is what we are discussing. We will discuss first, so you can see them floating. They are like tubes. We have microtubules running up and down, and basically, uh, we have now seen plant cells. They have specific shape. They have chloroplasts, which help them in the making of food or sugar. They have definite shape because of cell wall. Cell wall is made of tough, rigid materials. So we will look at all these organelles one by one. Some cells will have cilia, which are small projections that aid the organism to move or to move materials. Some of them, some of the cells, they have what you see here, flagella, like the bacteria cell, and this helps them to move in a motion so specific. Animal cells also have, some of them have flagella, animal cells, like the sperm cell. So we will start by the cytoskeleton. So cytoskeleton is a network of proteins that is constantly changing to meet the needs of the cell. A cytoskeleton is a network of protein, is a network of protein that is constantly changing. That is constantly changing. That is constantly changing to meet the needs of the cell. To meet the needs of the cell. So when we are looking at them, it is made of small protein units that form long threads or fibers that crisscross the entire cell. So it is made of small protein subunits. It's made of small protein subunits that crisscross the entire cell. So when we say that crisscross the entire cell, what are we talking about here? We mean that they are found spread all through the entire cell. They are found spread all through the entire cell. So you can see how they are moving up within. So the cytoskeleton supports, its main function is that it supports and shapes the cell. The cytoskeleton includes microtubules, which are green in color, also microfilaments, the red ones, and also the intermediate filaments. So we have three types of fibers made up of cytoskeleton and allow it to serve a wide range of function. That is, so we have one, microtubules. We have the microtubules, which are hollow tubes. Microtubules, as the name suggests, are hollow. They are hollow tubes. Microtubules are hollow tubes. They give the cell its shape and act as tracks. They give the cell its shape and act as tracts and act as tracks. So they give the cell a shape and act as tracks for the movement organelles. For the movement of organelles. For the movement of organelles. When cells divide, microtubules form fibers that pull half of the DNA into new cell. The next part of the cytoskeleton, the next part of the cytoskeleton is the intermediate filaments. Intermediate filaments. Intermediate filaments, which are somewhat smaller than microtubules, give a cell its strength. Give a cell its strength. Then the last category of cytoskeleton, or what makes up the cytoskeleton, are microfilaments. Are microfilaments. The microfilaments. Microfilaments, the smallest of the three, these are the smallest of the three, the smallest of the three, they are the smallest of the three, are tiny threads that embed cells to move and divide. So they are tiny cells. These ones are tiny cells that embed cell to move and divide. They play an important role in muscle cells. So they play an important role in muscle cells. So they play an important role in muscle cells. Why? Because, of course, they help the muscles contract and relax, where they help the muscle contract and relax. Where they help the muscle contract and relax. So you can see them there, their picture. Here we are having a general structure of a cell with all the necessary organelles, or with all the necessary organelles. So in eukaryotes, it fills the space between the cytoplasm. We are looking now at cytoplasm. So what we are calling cytoplasm in eukaryotes, what is cytoplasm? Cytoplasm, as part of a cell, is what fills up, or where all these other organelles are floating, or the fluid part of the cell. So it contributes to cell structure first of all. So cytoplasm. Cytoplasm contributes to cell structure, and we know that all cells function because of their structure. So in eukaryotes, it fills the space between the nucleus and the cell membrane, fills the space between the nucleus and the cell membrane. So here we have the nucleus. When we are looking at it, this is the nucleus. So all this part up to the cell membrane, it is covered by the cytoplasm. So the fluid portion, excluding the organelles, is called cytosol. Fluid portion, the fluid portion of the cytoplasm, excluding the organelles, is called the cytosol. It's called the cytosol and consists mostly of water. So the makeup of cytoplasm shows that water is necessary for maintaining cell structure. This is only one of the many reasons that water is an important essential component of life. So many chemical processes would not take place in the absence of water, and in the cell, water is essential because it plays part in chemical reactions. There are many other organelles that we will be looking at in the next coming period, but for now, we will stop here for this, and in the next period, we will look at other organelles.